Hi folks, Simon here, welcome back to the channel. So the Midgar Zolom in the original Final Fantasy VII was one of those encounters I always looked forward to. It was so tough and it caused me so many problems, but being able to defeat that thing and actually learn the beta enemy skill early on was just such a fun part of the game for me, and it did set the party up to be fairly overpowered then for at least the next portion of the adventure. You're not supposed to defeat that thing when you first stumble upon it. It's there as far as the story's concerned, but you do have the option to do so with the right setup. Well, here in Final Fantasy VII New Threat, the Midgar Zolom is back. And if you thought it was tough in the original game, you ain't seen nothing yet, because this thing has been buffed big time. Okay, in fact, when I played the last stream and we defeated the Midgar Zolom in the New Threat mod, it actually took, I think, about 8 or 9 attempts before we were able to take it down. And, you know, halfway through those attempts, I actually almost resigned myself to the fact that it might just not be possible to do this. He's been made that much stronger. But actually, thanks to chat, and I give a shout out to everybody who was present on that stream, we did manage to refine a strategy that once you put this strategy in place, this fight, along with learning the beta enemy skill, almost becomes a formality. It's as if you cannot go wrong if you follow the steps and the setup that I give you to the letter. Okay, you will take a very difficult encounter, one that will destroy your party if you're unprepared, to one that is far more manageable. And technically, with this strategy, I think you could do this 100% of the time. Okay, it pretty much removes the RNG elements completely. So yes, thanks again to all those of you who were present and helped to develop and refine this strategy on that live stream. If you weren't available then hopefully the video will help you to defeat this guy in the New Threat mod. Here's the setup. Okay, I'm going to go through the strategy as clear as I can, but if there's any questions, then please do ask in the comments. So first of all, let's go for the party setup. We're going to be using Cloud, of course, he's required. Now for our other two party members, we're going to be going for Ares. She's arguably the most important party member. We cannot actually beat the Midgar Zolom without her in this strategy. And for our third party member, I'm going to select Tifa, but I would encourage you to select whoever of the remaining party members has the highest magic stats. Okay, right now, before doing anything else, I'm going to recommend putting all 3 party members into the back row, and that'll just reduce the physical damage taken from the Midgar Zolom's physical attacks, single target physical attacks. And with this strategy, apart from seeing beta and the expulsion of one party member, those will be the only attacks that you have to deal with. Now, let's go for the Materia setup. In my case, Cloud is going to be the party member with the enemy skill Materia. So I'm also going to give him Sense and Restore. I'm going to make sure every party member has access to Restore. Ares is going to have Time All, not required, but, you know, fairly useful, and Restore as well. And in her armor slot, it has to be armor slot, I've given her the Elemental Fire combo. This will reduce the damage taken when the Midgar Zolom casts the beta enemy skill. So it will reduce it for Ares anyhow. And then finally Tifa, who is going to be our main damage dealer throughout the first part of the fight. I've given her Barrier All combo, and that's mainly for the magic barrier effect. So if you haven't learned that, you may want to do so, though it may be possible to do this strategy even without this particular combo. And then she's going to have a Restore Materia and also an Earth Materia. And that's because Midgar Zolom in Final Fantasy VII New Threat 2.0 is weak against Quake, so that's going to be a nice bit of additional damage. As you can see, not the most complicated Materia setup, but I do want to just make sure that you are going to put all this stuff on those specific characters. Okay, one final thing worth mentioning is that Cloud should have the Phoenix Ring equipped. So just to clarify, the Phoenix Ring and the Elemental Materia both came from the Shinra building in the last section of the game. Phoenix Ring is going to reduce the fire damage taken by Cloud once the Midgar Zolom casts the beta enemy skill. If for whatever reason you only have either the Phoenix Ring or the Elemental Materia, then it's important that Cloud is able to stay alive so that he gets to keep the enemy skill once it's cast on him. So make sure he has access to some kind of fire resistant ability or combo. And that's pretty much it. Just make sure that Ares' limit is set to level 1 and that she does have access to Seal Evil. She is going to need that. And that's pretty much the setup. So now we'll move on to the battle. Now, a few basic stats before the strategy itself. Midgar Zolom is a level 31 foe. with 7,776 HP here in Final Fantasy VII New Threat 2.0. It has nothing on its drop, steal or morph tables, though that may differ if you're playing game type B, I'm not sure. And he's weak to earth magic, as I say. Now, unlike the original game, you do not want to be casting poison on this thing, since it will absorb it. Oh, and it is also immune to gravity. Now, you can afflict this creature with various statuses, and that's going to come into play a little bit later on. The abilities that the Midgar Zolom has in its arsenal are varied, and in fact quite a few more than the original game. However, this fight kind of acts like a musical crescendo. It starts off fairly simple and basic, but ends up absolutely just blitzing the entire battlefield. It really does. So don't be lulled into a false sense of security when you're just having to deal with basic physical attacks to start with, but then later on are pleasantly surprised by a wealth of other abilities that the Midgar Zolom seem to keep hidden for the first part of the battle. However, follow my strategy and you won't have to deal with any of that nastiness, okay? It's going to be very, very simple. So, Tifa is her main damage dealer in the first part of the fight, and that's very important to remember. You must have your third party member dealing the most amount of damage in the first part of the encounter, and that is because once the Midgar Zolom stands up, it is going to eject that party member, the one that has already dealt the most damage to it. You do not want it ejecting Ares, and you do not want it ejecting Cloud if Cloud has your enemy skill Materia. So Tifa is going to be our fodder in that respect, which means that the first part of the fight is going to be a bit of a slow burn, but take your time, there's no rush here. All I'm going to do is have Cloud and Ares pretty much stay on the defensive side of things, and Tifa is going to be dishing out that Quake magic. That will be doing damage to his high HP, whilst also making sure that the Midgar Zolom is getting angry most with Tifa, so that she will be ejected once the time comes. Once you've done enough damage, the Midgar Zolom is going to stand up, and this is where things can start to get a little bit dangerous. Once it does this, one of the first things you're going to want to do, if you have it, is cast Magic Barrier All. That will reduce the damage of the incoming beta spell, along with those additional defences that we set up earlier on. It is also very important that you have saved Ares' Limit Break. We're going to be casting that in a short while, but not right yet. Now, once he's in this standing position, he will be casting Beta very soon. So we're just going to throw out a couple of Quakes here until he does so. There we go, here comes Beta. Now, with those defences in place that we've set up, we should be able to survive this quite nasty area of effectability without too much trouble. Okay, we just need to get people cured up. But Cloud has now learned the enemy skill, and as long as he is not ejected from battle and we are able to defeat the Midgar Zolom, he will retain that skill forever. Now, you just saw me cast Seal Evil. This is very, very important. Seal Evil is overpowered in this fight. What it's going to do is not much damage, but what it's going to do is silence the Midgar Zolom for the rest of the encounter. Okay? You don't need to cast it again, Seal Evil. One cast will get this creature silenced, and most of its abilities are now null and void. He won't use them. He just won't cast them at all. All of his dangerous abilities he would normally start using towards this end of the fight are just not going to be used at all. So all we now have to worry about is, first of all, just making sure that Tifa is still going to be the one that's ejected. So have her doing most of the damage until that happens. And then just single target curing whichever party member he attacks physically. Because that's all this creature is going to do now for the rest of the fight. Because it's got that silence effect on it, it cannot do any of its area of effect abilities or really powerful single target abilities that will one-shot whoever they're used on. It's just going to be doing that single target physical damage, which hurts, but with all party members happily chilling in the back row, that damage will be reduced. So yes, it's still going to hurt, but you can easily get out of it each turn with a simple cure spell on the affected party member rather. Okay, so all we're going to do now, since we've still got 3 people in battle, is just continue to unleash those Quake attacks with Tifa. And there we have it. He chucks her out of the battle at this point. So now we're left with Cloud and Ares. He will only do that one time, okay? In the fight. So he won't be ejecting anybody else at this point. All we need to do now, is have Cloud become our damage dealer. And I'm going to be using enemy skill, probably laser, in order to do that damage. And then have Ares on the defensive. So every turn, whoever he attacks physically, just make sure that Ares cures that person back up to full with a cure spell. That's it. Every now and then, Cloud will have his limit break, and I'll unleash Cross Slash just to, you know, freeze this thing so it doesn't get a turn. Sometimes it'll skip out on 2 turns that way. Not necessary, but it's there, so why not use it? It is this simple, guys. That fight that was absolutely destructive without the right strategy has now, as I said at the start of the video, become a complete formality. Follow what I've done here exactly, and you can't fail. The biggest annoyance now is getting through its high hit points. So 7,700 HP at this stage of the game is quite a lot. So it might take a bit of time. One thing I did do and recommended to you in a previous video that you do is morph the elevator boss in the Shinra Mansion, the 100 gunner. And that will give you the 8-inch cannon. And you can throw that at the Midgar Zolom for a fast 2,000 points of damage. It's not required, but obviously it will speed up the end of the encounter. But just make sure you save it to the end. You don't want to mess up the rest of the routine by doing too much damage too soon earlier on. But that's it then, guys. So, yeah. You wouldn't believe it from watching this playthrough. Oh, sorry, watching this particular attempt. But this is a hard encounter. Just a lot of trial and error, a lot of adjusting strategies, and thanks again to those in chat that shared their tips, pointers and ideas as we work through this one together. And hopefully, you know, this strategy is just going to help everybody else to actually get the beta enemy skill, which I've got to say is not as powerful in New Threat as it was in Final Fantasy VII, the original. But it is still very powerful for this stage of the game. Definitely more powerful than the other enemy skills we currently have access to. And that added poison effect is a really nice bonus as well. But now it's just under 2,000 HP, so I throw the 8-inch cannon to finish it off for 1,972 points of damage. There we have it, guys. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope the video has been enjoyable and helpful to you. If it has, don't forget to drop a like. Check out my Twitch channel if you're able. Say hello on the next live stream. That'd be awesome. But have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.